down. We the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. Ha. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Ha. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to the Scoreboard XFL Week 5. We're getting close to halfway through the XFLs because of the shortened season. If you compare it to the NFL, only 10 regular season weeks, 2 playoff weeks. And this is going to be an important week. This is going to be a very important week with playoff implications on the line. So, a lot to discuss. Smokey, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I am better than, you're not going to believe this, I am better than Orlando Guardians fans right now. I can almost put the Brahmas in that category also now after their past 2 weeks. But the Guardians are bad. I don't see this changing. I think this is a 1 to 2 win team at this point. They did sign Quentin Flowers, which supposedly he could come in and supplant Paxton Lynch there, and that might be the star quarterback they've been looking for. Deondre Francois is obviously not the answer. They're not going with him, although that was a spectacular missile pass over the middle that he made this past week, which looked good, but other than that, he was horrible. And Paxton Lynch wasn't a ton better. He's playing okay, just it's not enough to win. This team is not good.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. You might be able to get away with just opening with the Guardians all season if they don't get a win.
Yeah, absolutely. It is possible that they go 0-10.
Yeah, it's possible. In which case, you can do it. You can do it all season.
Exactly.
I doubt it still, but this might actually be one of the weeks where they have a shot. This might be one of the weeks where they can do it.
Probably, yeah. This will be the weakest team that they are playing. So, yeah, maybe.
It's definitely a chance. How are our prediction standings looking?
Oh, we did great. We got all 4 of them last week, and we agreed on all of them, which was obviously the right decision. Roughnecks, the Sea Dragons, Battlehawks, and Defenders all won. So that brings our total to 12 for me and 11 for you. But I do have a feeling that we are going to disagree on some this week.
That could be. One we disagree on. I'm almost certain we will disagree on, and I'm going to win that one. But just to point out, though, we have 11 and 12 out of 16, respectively, right?
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
those are pretty good values.
Absolutely.
I think we said after week 1 we did badly, and we said one of the 75% would be a really, really good score, and we're around that mark. So that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, and
I'm going to catch up. Yep, catching up to that point today.
Sorry. Yeah, after this week we'll be halfway through the season. So far, so good.
So let's get into these and see if we have some disagreements. Maybe more than one. Roughnecks and the Sea Dragons.
Now, this is very tough. Because some people are putting the Houston Roughnecks as number 1 on their power rankings right now, and Brandon Silvers is playing quite well. And, hey, we saw a John Trey Kirkland spotting this time. He came in and made 1 pass, so he was technically perfect with a 49-yard passing average, which was pretty good. But Cole McDonald made his usual. He was perfect also, on his 2 passes that he got to come in and play for. But other than that, Brandon Silvers is great. Dijon Lee, their running backs, they're not utilizing them at all, but I guess at this point they don't really need to because the passing game is working so well. They're throwing to every receiver on the field. If you look at their box score, every receiver has almost multiple catches, including the running backs. Travell Harris, Cedric Byrd was probably the star out of it, although he did not have many yards. He had many short passes, and it worked out quite well. But on the other side, the Sea Dragons, Ben DiNucci is above mediocre. He hasn't been playing great. I know a lot of people are praising Ben DiNucci because this team has turned around, but I don't think Ben DiNucci is top 2, top 3 like people are putting him in this league. I think he's probably just above mid-tier. Maybe Ben DiNucci is the Andy Dalton line for this league at this point. I know some people are going to hate that, but look at what he has. He has Josh Gordon and the passing leader for the entire league, Ja'Cour Pearson, out there. And Morgan Ellison is one of the best running backs in the entire league. This team is stacked. And DiNucci plays well enough to win. He's just not setting the world on fire. It's usually a 1-to-1 ratio. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And that's exactly what he did this past week. Now, they have the momentum on their side. So that makes this really rough. Do I want to go with what some people are saying is the hottest team in the league and they're just going to continue winning? I think if we go back to the last inception of the XFL, the Roughnecks are on like a 9 or 10 game win streak at this point. So who do I go with? I really don't know. I think these teams are even because of the momentum that the Seattle Dragons have. I am going to give the 3 points to the home team and take the Seattle Dragons.
You see, this is a difficult one to pick. Now, I'm not going to say DiNucci's the Dalton line. I'll say he's above the XFL version of the Dalton line. It might be is it the Jack Cohn line or the Tamu line? I don't know. It's difficult to draw a line when you only have 8 guys.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Because I know that like Silvers and McCarron are clearly above. Mm-hmm. You know that Paxton Lynch is clearly below it, and maybe Drew Plitt. And you never know with Luis Perez. It's difficult. It's difficult to draw the line. Mm-hmm. But I'll say this. The Roughnecks haven't lost. But the matchup is what concerns me about it. Now, I'll take it away from the top. I'll take Houston to win because they haven't lost, and it's difficult to pick when they pick against them. But, usually I'm the one coming in here and I'm blowing the horn for the Sea Dragons.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, watch out for the Sea Dragons. Because remember, 1-score games against Defenders and Battlehawks, they could have won both of those easily. Just about lost. And then they obviously won their last 2. But the Roughnecks usually blow people out. They win games clearly. With great defense, they get to the quarterback and Brennan Silvers puts up a show. Every game Seattle plays is a close game. So I have good reason to believe this will end up being a close game, especially because it's in Seattle. Can Houston handle a close game? Can they handle a game that comes down to the last possession? To me, defense is important in exactly those situations, more so than anything else. And that's why I'm going with the defensive team. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take Houston. They haven't lost. I think they'll be able to do it because the roster is just a bit better than Seattle. But it'll be a close one. And this is as close to a pick'em as you can expect from a 4-0 versus 2-2 team. Because I know it'll be a 1-score game. It'll come down to probably the final minutes. And we know in the XFL, especially with the rule set they have compared to the NFL, a lot more can happen in the final couple minutes. 3-point conversion, onside kick alternative, a lot of magic can happen. So when it gets down to late fourth quarter and it's a 1-score game, even 2-score game, a lot of things can happen. I'm going Houston, and they have not lost, so I'm trusting Brennan Silvers, who might be, I'm not going to call him the front runner just yet, but statistically speaking, I mean, it's tough to say that he's not in position to win the MVP up there with AJ McCarron only at this point, statistically speaking. So, going with the Roughnecks. Mm-hmm. We have the match of the week, the game of the month, year, century. The rematch from 2 weeks ago. Defenders at the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Oh man, it's been so long since we've seen these two teams play. I can't wait. But the fact is, they played 2 weeks ago, and the tides were turned, so to speak. We were actually in DC for that one, and now we will be in St. Louis, the murder capital of America right there. So does that play into it? Hopefully not. Let's look at the defenders. Jordan Ta'amu. This team has an embarrassment of riches at the quarterback situation because Jordan Ta'amu is Mr. XFL, as I dubbed him last week, and I'm going to stick with that. But also, D'Eriq King is good enough to handle this team all by himself. He is that good. But when you have Jordan Ta'amu out there playing as well as he has, like, why take that away from him? Let's stick with him and just bring in D'Eriq King when we need to. And if Ta'amu ever gets hurt, D'Eriq King will be right there to take over, and they will continue winning, in my opinion. Abram Smith, one of the top draft picks in this league, is great. He's still doing his thing every single week. 22 rushes. I guess not a lot of yards per rush, but the guy is just a bruiser. He just pounds it over and over again and ends up breaking through the line eventually. Lucky Jackson, maybe my favorite breakout wide receiver in this league. Reggie Barlow is doing a great job. On the other side, A.J. McCarron and the Battlehawks. Man, second best team in the league in my opinion. I know you're going to say the first. Brian Hill is, I think he's the rushing leader, if not the second. And Mateo Durant is almost just as good. Darius Shepard, Hakeem Butler, one of the best wide receivers in the league. Anthony Betts really has this team running. They just couldn't quite get past the defenders 2 weeks ago, but I think these teams are really close to being even. So, my pick will actually be another one where I just give it to the home team, and I am actually going with the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Wow. Okay, so I was promised action with this one because I remember I messaged you the day, like 10 minutes after the Battlehawks game against the Vipers last week, and AJ McClutch did it again. I said, I'm locking them in for next week against DC. And I said that not because they blew them out of the water, which they did not, the Vipers, by no means. The second half, they kind of pulled away, but it wasn't a huge deal. But not the Vipers, the Renegades. The reason that I picked the Battlehawks or locked in the Battlehawks is because that home field is the biggest home field advantage by far in the XFL. It was their home opener. This team has a fan base. This team has an NFL caliber fan base. I'm not sure if you open up that whole stadium, because they only sold tickets for like the lower rink of the stadium and they were sold out. If you open up that whole stadium, there might be more people going to a St. Louis Battlehawks home game than for some NFL teams. Looking at the Chargers, maybe, or Cardinals, they might fill up this whole stadium. They might fill up 50, 60,000 people. This is a city that has wanted the football team for 8 years now.
Yeah.
And this is a real field. This is a real football field, a real dome. Everything about that venue is NFL caliber. The quarterback, the field conditions, the fans, everything. You can't compare that to, well, the Sea Dragons, obviously, sure, but the atmosphere is not the same in any other venue. This is the biggest home field advantage by far. You compare it to the Stallions, maybe, from the USFL, because everything was played in Birmingham, obviously. But this is a huge advantage. And to me, in DC, as close of a game as it was, the defenders, they play in like a modified soccer stadium, and the lines are kind of blurry. You don't even know where the end zone is sometimes. This field's great. The stadium's great. St. Louis is absolutely the center, the capital of the USFL. Fan-wise and hopefully marketing-wise as well, because this is the juggernaut franchise, or it's set to be the juggernaut franchise. They play well and the support is there. That's why I'm taking them, and that's why I'm still taking them to win the whole thing. Now, I'm not claiming they're the best team right now. I can't claim that unless they beat the Defenders. If they lose to them twice, I can't say they are until we get to playoff time, and they'll probably face them again in hopefully the North Championship. So until then, I'll keep that behind, but I'm trusting AJ McCarron at home. They get it done. This crowd's gonna go insane. No beer snake either. We're not in DC anymore. You can't do the beer snake. And I'd like to see them try, actually. I'd like to see them stack a beer snake to the ceiling of that big a stadium. Not gonna happen. Battlehawks win. Home plus 5 points for the home field. I'm giving them 5. Wow. Any other team get 3. This is 5. It is not going to be easy to go there and win, because they measured the noise. They had like 100 decibels. That's NFL, like that's NFL sound. Downright 100 decibels in the stadium noise. That doesn't happen in other leagues. That happens in college, like in Michigan, and it happens in the NFL. And it happens in St. Louis for the Battlehawks. So, Battlehawks win when they play at home. They'll be hard to beat. I expected you to pick the Defenders, though. Really did.
Well, I thought about it, but I know how hard it is to beat a team twice. And one season, and then there's the home field advantage. And that was a close game last time. There was, by no means did the DC Defenders run away with that. It was a very close game, and I think that it's just going to shift exactly to the other side on this one with the home field advantage. And like you said, what did they put, like 30, was it 30,000 for this one? And they're thinking about opening it up to 38,000 people?
Yeah, 30,000 and sold out.
Yeah, Jesus. They should go to 38 because they could probably put more than that. Those fans love this team.
You can pack that stadium, pack it full of people.
Yeah. That makes me wonder because the DC Defenders have a big fan base also. Are we going to see any DC Defenders fans in St. Louis like you would see in an NFL game?
Probably some, I would imagine.
Yeah. That might lead to some fights too because those fans
That's
are
a rivalry. Yeah, this is becoming a rivalry real quick.
Yeah, and both of these teams have rowdy fans. I mean, it's obvious.
I'm all for it.
That would be another point of contention if they do the beer snake there and they're like, look, we can do it too. And then the Defenders fans get mad about that. Like, no, that's our thing. And then they fight over that.
Oh, that would be cool. Make a bigger beer snake.
Yeah.
In St. Louis.
Yeah, not only are the fans fighting on, or the teams fighting on the field, we're going to see the fans fighting in the stadium. Let's hope it doesn't get too far out of hand. We don't want any trouble here. But
True. But at this point, though, a lot of publicity is good publicity for the XFL. And this is one of the games that can help that tremendously. So I'll say, by the way, the key to the game, because I just talked about the venue for the most part, the key to the game to me, from the Battlehawks perspective, is you got to stop the explosive plays with Derek King. I think he's the scorer. Derek King is the guy they bring in if they need to score. Yes. In the red zone, whether it is on foot, whether it's through the air, he scores the touchdowns. Jordan Tam was the quarterback, but they need the touchdown, need the explosive play, kind of Taysom Hill sort of role. He can do everything. That's what you have to stop, because he'll be out there for 5 plays and score 21 points on those 5 plays. So that's what you need to stop, and you have a pretty good chance. Make Jordan Ta'amu throw into the end zone, and we know that is where he can make mistakes, and that is where you can take advantage of it. That's the sort of small analyst part of the game, but mostly I just want to see the spectacle. Guardians at the Vipers.
Oh man, Tank Bowl. I don't know how they're working the draft next season, but this is a Tank Bowl, right? I wonder, I don't think they're going to do the whole playoff at the very end of the season like we saw with the Panthers and the Maulers last season. Whoever loses this game actually has to draft second rather than first. That would be cool to see in here, but I doubt they're going to steal an idea from the USFL. So this is Tank Bowl. I mean, I guess if you're getting your number 1 draft spot, this is where you need to lose. Looking at these two teams, like I said, DeAndre Francois had that one great throw, but I think his days are numbered, as much as I hate to see it, because I really thought he could be something. He's not going to make it to the NFL like this, that's for sure. And Paxton Lynch is not going to make it back to the NFL, although he hasn't played horrible. He has played very mediocre, but not enough to win, obviously, because the team around him is just that bad. Charleston Rambo, I really like him, and Lance Lenoir is out there, and we saw him in the USFL last year. He was actually a great USFL wide receiver, but Tyrell Buckley hates this team. The bright spot, like I've been mentioning every week, is Cody Latimer at tight end, although he was surpassed just in last week by Sal Cannella at tight end. He is still the top tight end, receiving tight end in the entire league, and he's going to be great for the rest of the season. DFS talk later. Vegas Vipers, this is where you need to win. If you're going to do anything this season, it might even be too late. When you only have 10 games in the entire season, it might be too late to turn it around, but if you want to, this is where you do it. Luis Perez was back out there because Hundley had a fumble. I don't like that. I don't like that Rod Woodson is so quick to just switch out quarterbacks. I think if you let either one of these guys get in there, and build the momentum, get into a rhythm with the receivers, and leave them out there even if they make a mistake, you could see some progress here. And this will be the one to do it. John Lovett and Rod Smith are splitting the backfield. Jeff Bidette, whatever he is. The guy's great. He's turned out to be the number one receiver over the proven NFL talent that they actually have on their team. But Perez loves Bidette, and so does Hundley. So whoever starts in this game, I think Bidette is going to be your guy. These two teams are very close. This is number 7 and number 8 in my power rankings. So I will go with number 7, especially because they are at home. I'm going to go with my Vegas Vipers.
Yeah, Tank Bowl is right for this one for sure. And I'm going to give it to your Vipers as well. The only reason I'm doing this is to spare you from having to come in here next week and say that you're doing better than Vipers fans. Because if they lose, that means the Guardians win, and then you can't do anything else.
Yes.
And you, as a Vipers fan, you don't ever want to get to that point. So, hopefully you get spared from that and can continue doing your little bit with the better than Guardians fans, and maybe you can do it all week and you skip ever having to go to the Vipers. But yeah, I mean, you're right about everything you said. Pick a quarterback and stick with it. It's a 10-season game. It's a 10-season league. 10 game. What am I saying? 10-game season. God damn it. But you don't have that much room for like experimentation. If you mess around for 4 weeks, guess what? You're kind of out of the playoff race real quick. So I know training camp's always difficult. First year of a new league. The rosters don't have a lot of time together. But now really is the time. You know, you saw Brett Hundley took him out after a quarter, brought Perez back in. Pick a guy, get him some confidence built up because he'll probably have a good chance to score and win this game, and then take that momentum into next week. Because next week you play the Battlehawks, you'll need it. You need to bring consistency. So I agree with what you say. Probably stick with Luis Perez at this point. He's sort of the more proven quarterback in the, I want to call them secondary leagues, because Brett Hundley, of course, some NFL experience, but Luis Perez has played in the USFL, and he's played in the XFL now, and I think you go with him. You win this one. The Guardians, of course, are falling apart, and you don't want to be that team that gifts them their first win either. So Vipers get a much-needed win. I don't think it'll help them. I think they're pretty much out of the playoff picture in the North. They have to win this, and they have to beat the Battlehawks next week if they want any glimpse of hope. But one game at a time now, Vipers win. And they are, as bad as they are 7.5-point favorites here. Of course, their home field we know to be pretty terrible, but you can already tell like, the Guardians are just... No one believes the Guardians at all.
Well, the Vegas Vipers offense is not that bad. You know, they can move the ball and they can score. It's just their defense is so bad that they let teams score way too often, and they just can't outrace the other teams. But
see, if
here,
the games... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, here is your chance to hold the Guardians because their offense is so bad. I do worry about if Quentin Flowers is thrown into this game, because people are projecting him to be a star for some reason. I mean, that's the pride of South Florida there, and I think he was drafted to the Bengals at one point, never really did much of anything. He actually played for the Tampa Bay Vipers in the original, or the 2020 XFL, down there with Aaron Murray. But I don't know. It's kind of a wild card if he does get thrown in here over Paxton Lynch. I think Paxton Lynch may just be the better quarterback, but with their Quentin Dormandy problems, they decided we needed another Quentin. So they have to meet their Quentin quota on the team.
The Quentin quarterback quota, the QQQ.
Yes,
patent
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
See, for the Vipers, it's a tale of two halves, right? And it's been all season, and it's frustrating to watch if you're a Vipers fan, but week 1 they let the Renegades at half, lost by a score. Week 2, they, believe it or not, held the defenders scoreless in the first half, let them at half, and then didn't score a single point themselves in the second half. Week 3, let the Sea Dragons at half, lost by a score. And in Week 4, okay, they trailed at half, but by 2 points. One score game. It's just a matter of a missed 2-point conversion. Separated those teams. But then, second half, the Vipers they fall off a cliff. I don't know what happens. They come out of the locker room, they fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
Consistently every single game. I don't know why that happens. Better not let it happen here against the Guardians. Gotta get it together somehow. First half Vipers are great. Second half Vipers just lose the games. But I think this one, they'll hold on. 7.5 points. I'll probably pick the Guardians against the spread, if I'm honest with you, just because of those second half woes, but I'm taking the Vipers to win. Mm-hmm. Renegades at the Brahmas.
Do you happen to have the Vegas odds on this game? Who's favored in this game? This is
for this one?
Yeah.
Brahmas by 2 points.
Okay, so they're
Give
barely
that home
getting...
field, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, Kyle Sloter has not gotten in a rhythm, that's for sure. 0 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Now, I'm starting to see why Bob Stoops didn't want to play Kyle Sloter. Maybe he's lost a step because he was an elite quarterback for the USFL. And like I said last week, he's played on so many NFL teams that he has the experience, but he just does not look good. Like, what happened to Kyle Sloter? Like I said, Sal Cannella is a bright spot on that offense. They're tight end, and Tyler Vaughn's the wide receiver. Looks good. Davion Smith, they don't really have an option to run the ball a lot because they're trailing in games, and they need to throw downfield. But on the other side, it doesn't look great for the Brahmas. Jack Cohn, I thought after week 2 that it was going to look up. I thought he was going to be a breakout quarterback here, but Hines Ward, I think he's lost faith. I heard a interview with him after the game, I guess the presser they were doing, and it sounds like he's lost faith in this offense altogether. In week 1, he ran Kalen Ballage to death, and now Kalen Ballage, let me see, where's Kalen Ballage ran 5 times for 5 yards after like 25 times in week 1. So he gave up on on the running game, and decided we're just going to get it done in the passing game. And they're using all of their wide receivers, much like the Roughnecks. But I don't know. It just doesn't look good. I like Jalen Tolliver and Fred Brown, though. Right here, I'm just going to do basically what I've done with all the other picks and just give those 2.5 to 3 points to the home team. And I'll say the Brahmas can get it done over the Renegades. Probably not the favorites in the fans' eyes, but Kyle Sloter is just that bad so far. So I'll stick with the Brahmas.
Yeah, Sloter's been looking very good at all. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if he's starting this game, because of course they were calling for him to start. When Drew Plitt was starting, it was uneventful, to say the least, but it wasn't catastrophic, right? He did not go 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He went no touchdowns, no interceptions, and like 150 yards or something like that. It's just not enough to get it done. But he wasn't actively going out giving games away. And as you saw, for example, in week 1, they played the Vipers. Due to their defense, they came back. Offense didn't produce with Drew Plitt, but they didn't give it away. Kyle Sloter turned the ball over 4 times this game against the Battlehawks. That's too much. And given that they only gave up 24 points, given that they turned it over 4 times, that's still a valiant defensive performance. 1 score per quarter they gave up to A.J. McCarron with that many turnovers. So this defense still has potential. And you talked about how sort of impotent the Brahmas offense looks at the moment. This is going to be a very low scoring game. Over-unders at 35.5. So they're not expecting more than maybe 2-3 touchdowns total, probably. I'm going with the Renegades, because I'm thinking they probably run Drew Plitt back out of there, or if it's Kyle Sloter, he'll play more carefully because he knows it's just not that big of a task, right? You're probably not You're probably not going to face a lot of pressure from the Brahmas offense. Your defense is excellent. The Renegades can win games if they don't give the ball away. If they play careful offense, they run first, and they don't turn it over, they have the potential to get in those gritty games and win them. And we've seen that. They did it in week 3. Obviously, did it week 1. The potential's there. And I'm saying they get it done because the Brahmas end up scoring probably single-digit points yet again. As they have against Seattle last week. So we have 2 disagreements.
Yes, definitely. First game and the last game.
Yeah, I did. I expect the Battlehawks to be the disagreement, but you picked them too.
Yeah, I have to, man. It's just that's the way these scenarios tend to play out when you have 2 dominant teams that play each other twice in a season. They tend to split them, especially when you got home and home here. So yeah, I kind of have to go with the Battlehawks there. I feel like I'd be giving a pick away if I went with the Defenders. Although I do think the Defenders have a slight edge as being the number 1 team in the league. It's just that home field advantage that the Battlehawks are going to have.
Mm-hmm. See, these 2 probably will play each other 3 times this season. Because if you include the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
They're favored to play in the North World Championship.
I guess that depends on who gets the home field advantage there.
Oh yeah, and if it's St. Louis, let me tell you, that's a huge deal. This is big implications.
Yeah.
This might be in fact, it could very well be where the North Championship will be played.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's in St. Louis, that's a very big deal. So we'll see. I'm glad you picked the Battlehawks. I'm glad you came around to
it. Yeah, I mean, some things you just can't deny. I don't want to give away a point.
That's good. Let's hope they actually get it done. How's the fantasy world looking in the XFL? I forgot to ask last week.
Yeah, this past week was pretty good. I did okay. I think I actually about broke even, which is actually a good week in DFS because breaking even is better than losing all your money, that's for sure. I'm still ahead for the entire season. The players of the week last week was Brandon Silvers. Obviously, the Roughnecks put up 44 points, so there he is. And the Battlehawks, Brian Hill. I think that's the second week in a row that he's the number 1 running back. Travell Harris for the Roughnecks, got a lot of work in, along with Cedric Bird. The best tight end was actually not Cody Latimer. He was edged out by Sal Cannella, as I mentioned earlier. But that's just, it's going to happen sometimes. I still think Cody Latimer is the best tight end in this league, no doubt about it. But sometimes he's not going to be first. Travis Kelce doesn't come in first every single week, believe it or not. Honorable mentions, Darius Shepard for the Battlehawks did great, and even over on the Vipers, Saniq Switting did very well and put up a ton of points this past week. Big plays for this week. If you want to spend all the money, go with AJ McCarron or Jordan Te'amu. That game should be a high over-under, and they both teams are going to be scoring. Te'amu's going to run a lot, and that's the cheat code for fantasy football. Brian Hill, you can go with him again. These guys are going to cost a lot more. Ja'Cour Pearson and Josh Gordon, these guys are going to cost a lot. But they are proven, and they get work every single week. But if you want some value plays, you might want to hold your nose for this, guys. But I think if this game does end up being high scoring, you're going to get a lot of use out of Paxton Lynch if he's not supplanted by Quentin over there, or Luis Perez. As long as he's starting, it's going to be tough. You got to check in right before the game started and make sure on these guys, because it's a toss-up on which ones are going to be starting with these 2 teams. Running back Dijon Lee for Houston, that is a great value. Austin Prohl, sometimes he looks like the 3rd wide receiver in St. Louis, but the guy puts up points every single week. And as always, your tight ends. These tight ends, Sal Cannella and Cody Latimer, you always get a discount because they are tight ends, but they're starting to catch on. DraftKings is catching on that these guys are scoring like wide receivers. They have jacked Sal Cannella up to 7,600 points and 6,000 for Cody Latimer. So you're not getting quite the benefit that you would have when they were coming in at $3,000 and $4,000. But they are still there at a discounted price over wide receivers, and they score like wide receivers. You want a defense to play for this week? I would go for the Brahmas because Kyle Sloter will throw interceptions as we've seen so far. So that's going to be your value plays overall.
I have two comments. So,
yeah.
First one on the last game we talked about. That's just maybe my opinion, but. Running back option. How do you like De'Veon Smith? Because I think, you're talking about Kyle Sloter's going to throw receptions. I think they take the ball out of his hand. The Brahmas don't produce on offense. They don't take time off the clock. The Renegades are going to win the time of possession, and they're going to keep it on the ground. Look for him to carry it 15, 20 times. Because the way you lose this if you're the Renegades is by throwing interceptions. Mm-hmm. So don't put your quarterback in harm's way. Run the ball. Maybe his price is even down from last week because the whole offense didn't produce very well against St. Louis last week. Maybe that's an option. And then secondly, what I wanted to ask is, you said spend big on either McCarron or Tamu, but how hesitant are you about Tamu given that they seem to just take him, they just pull him out of the game every time they're in the red zone?
Yeah, that is a problem. That really is a problem because you want your quarterbacks, especially your running quarterbacks, to be the one that scores, like we saw with Jalen Hurts all through the year. D'Eriq King is a problem in that effect, but Te'amu is still, without that, still putting up tons of points because, like I said, running quarterbacks are the cheat code in fantasy football. And if you're just stressed for cash when you're making your lineup, you can actually play D'Eriq King because he will run in and get some touchdowns. I mean, even though it's going to be like 4 snaps that he takes or 6 snaps or whatever it is, only a couple passing options, he's still very valuable. If you got all these superstars like a Josh Gordon and Ja'Kyr Pearson on your team and you need to spend down, D'Eriq King is also an option. But Te'amu, I mean, it's still valuable. I don't know what to say, man. You're still going to get a ton of points. I know the game script doesn't seem like it, and if you were playing NFL DFS, that wouldn't be the option you want to go. You don't want to play the quarterback that's going to get taken out at the goal line and someone else come in. But in this league, it is actually paying off, and it has the entire season.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. You're the expert. I'm still going McCarron, even if I don't play XFL Fantasy. If I did, I would go McCarron, unsurprisingly, because he is AJ McClutch, and he's the MVP, and the Battlehawks are going to win the league. Yeah. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to add to the fantasy segment. So, do we have anything else to add?
You want to do power rankings real quick?
Because I can't put the Battlehawks at one. No, I'm kidding. Okay. We can do it. I'll let you go first. You go ahead.
All right. I have number 8, of course, Orlando Guardians. Number 7 is the Vegas Vipers because they do have a great offense at times, and I think they're better than the Guardians. Number 6 is the San Antonio Brahmas. I know last time we did this, I put them up higher because they were coming off of a great game, but they've had 2 bad games, and Hines Ward has lost his feelings for the offense there. Number 5, Arlington Renegades. Bob Stoops has a great defense with a decent running game, like you pointed out earlier, but Kyle Sloter is not getting it done. Coming in at number 4, I have the Seattle Sea Dragons, which I think they may continue to rise, especially if this week goes the way that I predicted it to. But until that happens, number 3 is the Houston Roughnecks. A lot of people probably have them at number 1, but I have the 2 top teams in this league being the Battlehawks at number 2, and the DC Defenders are still at number 1, and that could all change after this week.
Could all change. So I have first slight thing I will disagree with: exchange the Brahmas and the Vipers. Guardians are last, of course. I have the Brahmas at 7.
Wow.
The Brahmas have not scored at all, except for that one game where they played the Guardians, which is the one team that's worse than them. They just have not looked good at all. Now, don't be fooled by the like first week when they kind of played the Battlehawks close. They've only been going downhill since then, and I'm starting to think there's not a rock conspiracy going on. I'm starting to think they're not destined to win the opening season. Maybe, but put them at 7th. Put the Vipers in 6th. If it was the first half Vipers, they'd be top 2. Combined, they're in 6th, unfortunately, but their potential's there if they put it together for 2 halves. I think we'll see it on display this week. Vipers in 6th, Renegades at 5th as well. Defense is great. Offensively, you gotta stop turning the ball over. Sea Dragons at 4 also, and then of course it gets difficult for me because I want to have the Battlehawks over the Defenders, and I'm going to put them over the Defenders this week. If they win, I will feel like that's confirmed. If they lose, I'll have to alter it next week. But Defenders 3, Battlehawks 2, actually putting the Roughnecks at number 1.
Oh, wow.
I think, as much as I'm beating the table for McCarron, and I'm saying the Roughnecks, the most convincing team has been the Roughnecks all year round. They've had the most convincing wins because they've blown people out. They've won all their games. They've won all their games by more than a score. In the XFL, I guess the 9-point game against the Renegades is technically a 1-score game. But they win games decisively. They play good defense. Brandon Silvers just doesn't make mistakes. He is either the MVP frontrunner or close second to McCarron at this point. I just haven't seen a lot of weakness. I have not seen them struggle. Any other team, I can look at them and say, okay, there's an issue there. This is something that needs to change. It needs to improve. With the Roughnecks, I'm just not seeing the weakness. So you could argue they haven't played either of the other two top teams in the North, and guess what? They'll play them consecutively week 6 and week 7. They're going to go through hell. They go to DC, and then the Battlehawks come to Houston. That's when we'll kind of know what these power rankings are really for and what the Roughnecks are made of. But so far, they, to me, have been the most invincible team. So Roughnecks at 1.
My problem with the Roughnecks is they played Orlando twice. And yes, they blew them out both times. But playing Arlington and San Antonio, both of those were 9-point games. Which, yes, you could technically say that's more than 1 score, of course, because you never know what.
In the XFL, it is a 1-score game, so we'll have to say they're a 1-score game. You're right.
Okay. Well, it's pretty decent to beat a team by 9 points in any league, but yeah, I think it's more of a symptom of them playing Orlando twice and playing 2 of the other bottom half teams, and we'll see if that continues when they play the top teams. This is going to be a test right here, the Sea Dragons.
There is a chance that the Roughnecks are the Philadelphia Eagles of the XFL, right? Remember the Eagles? The Eagles played 2 challenging games all season. Yeah. Cowboys, the regular season, which they lost, and the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Other than that, there was nothing in their way. Could be the same for the Roughnecks. The Roughnecks could make it to the XFL championship game without much resistance from the South. In fact, that's what it's looking like. Yeah. Entirely possible. Yeah. But so far, they've just been unmatched with their competition. Yeah. In 2 weeks, we know more. Play DC, play Battlehawks, then we know more. So these power rankings are probably going to change, hopefully.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Over the next few weeks. But that is everything for this week. Let us know what you think about these games. Power rankings as well will be very interesting. And who's your MVP frontrunner? To me, it's narrowing down to McCarron and Silvers at this point. I know I like DiNucci, but more wins needed. It's a big opportunity for him now maybe to beat the Roughnecks. Jordan Ta'amu, productive, but just doesn't score enough. So the stats don't support it. If he scored, if he could do it, he would be in there. Mm-hmm. Stats don't support it for now. So to me, McCarron, Brandon Silvers are the 2 front runners, but let us know your picks and your opinions for that as well as all these games and any other opinions you might have. Do we have anything to add, Smokey?
Nope, that's it for this week.
Awesome. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard.